The wilderness was supposed to be our sanctuary, a place for peace and connection. Instead, it became the stage for a revelation that ripped my world apart. What began as a simple hike ended with a shattering truth. My entire relationship was a carefully constructed lie, a betrayal woven into the very fabric of my life. This is the story of how I uncovered a secret so profound. It left me questioning everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and the people closest to me. Our journey began with a promise of escape, a week-long immersion into the raw beauty of the mountains. My partner, Helen, and I, both in our late 30s, joined 3 other married couples, David and Lena, Simon and Maya, and Ben and Chloe, alongside Leo, a longtime friend of the wives, and his partner, Marcus. We were a tight-knit group, all sharing a deep love for the outdoors, and this particular 8-day trek had been a long-anticipated adventure. Each morning, we rose with the sun, the crisp mountain air invigorating our lungs as we navigated winding trails, our laughter echoing through ancient forests. Evenings were a symphony of crackling campfires, shared meals, and stories exchanged under a blanket of stars so vivid they seemed to hum with ancient secrets. There was a profound sense of contentment, a feeling that life, in that moment, was exactly as it should be. Helen and I, in particular, seemed to thrive in this environment, our connection deepening with every shared vista and quiet moment. The first few days unfolded flawlessly, a testament to careful planning and the easy camaraderie among us. We were halfway through the 3rd day, the sun beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, when we decided to set up camp near a secluded clearing. It was then, in that tranquil twilight, that Helen suggested a short walk, a brief detour to explore the immediate surroundings. Little did I know, this seemingly innocent decision would be the first thread pulled from a meticulously woven tapestry, unraveling a truth that would shatter the idyllic peace of our wilderness retreat and redefine every memory I held dear. Helen and I wandered a short distance from our campsite, drawn by the distant murmur of falling water. We soon discovered a small, cascading waterfall, its gentle flow feeding a winding stream. The secluded spot, bathed in the soft glow of dusk, felt like a private haven. Helen, captivated by the pristine water, expressed a desire to rinse off, but without soaking her clothes. I encouraged her, assuring her of the privacy and our proximity to camp. She quickly shed her top, stepping into the cool embrace of the stream. As she emerged, still topless, drying herself with a small towel, Leo suddenly appeared from behind a cluster of trees. What struck me immediately was the complete lack of reaction from either of them. Helen continued dressing with an unnerving casualness, and Leo approached as if her state of undress was entirely unremarkable, a sight he'd witnessed countless times before. He delivered some trivial message from David, and they exchanged a few pleasantries before we all returned to camp. The encounter, though brief, left a lingering unease. Over the next 2 days, as we continued our trek, my mind replayed the scene at the waterfall. Helen's composure, Leo's nonchalance, it gnawed at me. My partner, usually quite reserved about her body, had shown no surprise, no embarrassment. It felt off. I tried to dismiss it as paranoia, but the feeling persisted, a quiet hum of suspicion beneath the surface of our otherwise perfect trip. By day 5, as we reached a small town and settled into a local inn for a much-needed rest, my quiet brooding had become noticeable. Helen, sensing my distant mood, asked why I was so withdrawn. I mumbled something about being tired, but the truth was, I couldn't shake the image of her and Leo. I knew Leo wasn't gay. Despite his relationship with Marcus, I'd known him for years, considered him a friend. But the wives, including Helen and Leo, had been inseparable since college. I'd asked Helen before about any past romantic involvement with Leo or any of the other women in our group, and she'd always denied it. Yet, the familiarity at the waterfall was undeniable. Later that morning, seeking some privacy before we rejoined the group on the trail, I decided to confront her. I approached it gently, stating that her lack of alarm at Leo's sudden appearance, given her state, had seemed peculiar. Her immediate, sharp defensiveness was a stark contrast to her usual demeanor. "Is that why you've been moody? It's not a big deal. Everyone's seen breasts before, even Leo. You need to grow up." Her words, laced with aggression, were a red flag. Helen rarely reacted this way unless she felt cornered or guilty. I pressed further, and her responses became increasingly evasive, a mix of deflection and subtle gaslighting. Finally, my patience snapped. I told her to tell me what was going on, or I would confront Leo, knowing he wouldn't lie. It was then that Helen's composure cracked. She admitted to a past sensual relationship with Leo. My anger flared. Why had she lied when I'd asked before? She insisted it wasn't a lie. They had never dated. It was merely a friend situation before we became official. So you were intimate with him when we first started dating? I asked, my voice tight with disbelief. She retorted, you don't have to be so vulgar. I don't want to talk about this now. Can't we discuss this after the trip? Absolutely not. I shot back, the words cutting through the air. Either you tell me everything now, or I start interrogating your friends. The sincerity in my threat must have been clear, because then the dam broke. The full, shocking truth began to spill out. Helen recounted her history of difficult relationships, how she'd often rushed into physical intimacy. When we started dating, she'd asked to take things slow, a request I'd happily agreed to, believing it a sign of her maturity and desire for a deeper connection. She had even told me I was free to date others until we were official, a suggestion I'd dismissed, wanting to focus solely on her. She claimed this made her happy. But the real revelation was far more sinister. Helen confessed that she, Lena, Maya, and Chloe had all engaged in similar friend situations, with Leo while dating their current husbands. Lena, frustrated with dating, had first used Leo as a surrogate to satisfy her physical needs, allowing her to focus on building an emotional connection with David. Leo, apparently, was fine with this arrangement, seeing himself as helping them find their special someone. This pattern, Helen explained, had been passed down among the women over the years, with each of them utilizing Leo in this capacity. I was simply the latest husband in this disturbing cycle. I felt a wave of nausea. Our entire relationship, everything I cherished, suddenly felt like a grotesque charade. Despite the overwhelming disgust, I continued my pain shopping, needing every detail. When did her arrangement with Leo stop? When we went official, she repeated. But we were dating for months before that, I countered. When did you consider us official? She defined it as the night I asked her to commit to me, the night we first became physically intimate. So, I said, the words heavy with accusation, you were intimate with him for 7 months while we were dating? She fell silent, and I knew the answer. The picture that formed in my mind was horrifying. I would pick her up for a date, we'd share intimate moments, hold hands, kiss, and then I'd drop her off, only for her to meet Leo and continue their arrangement, perhaps even discussing our date. Don't make it sound so dirty, she snapped, a desperate attempt to sanitize the unspeakable. I wanted to run, to escape the suffocating weight of her confession, but I was trapped, miles from anywhere. Yet, I pushed for more. When you say you were intimate, do you mean just to satisfy a physical need, or was it everything we share, the foreplay, the kinky things? She grew quiet, her eyes downcast. You need to answer me, I insisted, pointing towards the door that led to the other rooms. I will find out, one way or another. Her voice was barely a whisper as she finally admitted, all of it, even more than with you. The room spun, my world tilted on its axis. But still, I asked the worst question, when was the last time? Her reply was a final, devastating blow, the night before our first time. In that moment, I wanted nothing more than to be anywhere but there, with anyone but her. But I was stuck. I pulled some blankets onto the floor, needing distance, needing to breathe. I passed out for a few hours. But the truth was a relentless tormentor. I was trapped with these people for 2.5 more days, followed by a half-day drive home. Part of me could grasp the twisted logic of her friend's arrangement, but mostly, I was just profoundly hurt, feeling like our entire relationship had been a cruel, elaborate con. I felt like I had settled for a silver medal, a consolation prize, and a burning urge began to grow within me, to expose this truth to everyone, to shatter the false pretenses under which we all lived. The following day, day 6, was a blur of forced composure. I moved through the motions, quiet and withdrawn, my mind a tempest of rage and disbelief. Helen, I presumed, had informed Leo of my discovery, because he began an unsettling attempt to buddy up to me, his usual laid-back demeanor replaced by an insistent, almost desperate friendliness. I rebuffed him repeatedly, until my patience snapped, and I told him, in no uncertain terms, to back off. Helen intervened, and they finally got the message, leaving me to my tormented thoughts. The next 24 hours passed in an uneasy silence, everyone seemingly giving me a wide berth. By the evening of day 7, as we gathered around the campfire for our final night in the wilderness, a strange calm had settled over me. I even managed to engage in some light conversation, a facade of normalcy. The fire crackled, casting dancing shadows as stories were shared. Ben recounted an embarrassing high school anecdote, a tale of youthful foolishness that drew laughter from the group. When he finished, he mused, I still can't believe I was ever that dumb. I still cringe thinking about it. It was then that Leo, with a condescending smirk, interjected, "Well, at least you grew up. Some people never man up and get over the past." His gaze, sharp and pointed, landed directly on me. In that instant, something inside me snapped. The filter dissolved, reason fled, and a primal urge for justice took over. "You know, Leo," I began, my voice surprisingly steady, "you're right. Sometimes we just have to man up and face the past head on." Helen tried to interrupt, a frantic whisper on her lips, but I ignored her completely. "How about we address the fact that you used to be intimate with all our wives while we were dating?" The words hung in the air, a sudden, deafening silence falling over the campsite. Even the insects seemed to hold their breath. "Oh, fellas, did you not know either?" I continued, my voice rising, laced with a bitter irony. "Yeah, while they were holding out on us, trying to build a connection, our future wives were using old Leo here as their personal stress reliever." David and Ben stared, their faces a mixture of confusion and dawning fury. Simon's expression was one of utter, catastrophic shock, as if he'd just witnessed the impossible. I wasn't finished. I turned to David. It was Lena who pioneered this amazing plan. She figured out the key to building a lasting relationship was to take things slow, get to know each other before jumping into bed. All you need to handle the urges is a bestie willing to alleviate your desires when you come home from your dates, all hot and bothered. David exploded. "What the hell are you talking about, Ollie? How do you know this?" "Oh," I retorted, "I just found out 2 days ago that when I took Helen out for drinks, that wasn't the only thing she was indulging in that night." At this, Helen lost control, screaming, "Why are you doing this? You don't need." Her words were cut short as Simon suddenly stood up, his voice trembling with a raw, desperate honesty. "It's true. It's all true." Everyone turned to him, stunned. "I've known since we were dating. I didn't find out it was everyone else too until after we were married." "I'm sorry, David, Ben. I could have warned you. I swear I didn't know it was you two back then." Ben's face crumpled in a look of profound dread. "Simon," he stammered, "we used to double date with Maya and Chloe a couple of times. We dropped them off at Leo's afterwards. Does that mean they?" Simon just looked at him and nodded. I turned to Leo, a wild, triumphant laugh bubbling up. "Two at once, you insatiable dog." Then, I let out a primal howl, a sound of release and madness that echoed through the trees. Arguments erupted among the couples, a cacophony of accusations and disbelief. Amidst the chaos, a soft whimper drew everyone's attention. Marcus, Leo's partner, sat there, tears streaming down his face. He looked at Leo, his voice broken. "Lies, more lies. It never ends. No matter what I forgive, no matter how many times I take you back, you always do this to me." He then slapped Leo across the face, turned, and stumbled away down the trail. Leo, stunned, ran after him. The other three couples, their worlds imploded, grumbled under their breaths, then each scattered in separate directions, leaving me standing by the fire, a strange sense of triumph washing over me. Helen approached me, her face contorted with fury. "I hope you're happy," she spat. I met her gaze, my eyes burning with a cold satisfaction. "I've never been more content with myself in my whole life," I replied, my voice steady. "I'm 80-20 for divorce right now. I recommend leaving me alone until we are home, unpacked, showered, and fed, because the only thing you are going to accomplish before then is turning that to 100. With that, she turned and retreated into our tent, leaving me alone with the dying embers of the fire and the ashes of our relationships. The next day was an agonizing eternity. 7 hours of strained silence, from the morning pack-up to the hike back to the van, and then the 4.5-hour drive home. Perhaps 19 words were exchanged in total. I arrived back in the quiet sanctuary of my own home, freshly showered, and prepared to face Helen. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that this was the end for us, and likely for several others in our shattered group. For weeks have passed since that catastrophic trip. The implosion I predicted has become a stark reality. David and Lena, the couple with the longest history and a 10-year-old son, are now navigating the painful path to divorce. David, in particular, has taken the revelation with crushing difficulty. He recalls their long courtship, how they deliberately delayed intimacy, believing it a sign of a deeper bond. Now, he's haunted by the knowledge that her reluctance was not for him, but to prolong her arrangement with Leo. I shared a few beers with Simon one night. He revealed that Maya had been transparent with him from the start, admitting to her past with Leo, but reassuring him that it ended when they became serious. Their honesty, though painful, seems to have forged a stronger foundation. They had a minor argument about the campfire incident, Maya believing they should have remained silent, but overall, they are weathering the storm. Ben and Chloe are in the early, fragile stages of reconciliation. With 3 young children, they feel compelled to try and make it work. Ben struggles deeply with the memory of dropping Chloe off at Leo's after dates, the sickening realization that her waiting was a deception. Chloe claims only one instance was truly physical, and not a threesome, as implied. But the semantics offer little comfort to Ben, who feels profoundly betrayed. Leo reached out to apologize. My response was swift and unequivocal. I told him exactly where he could go and blocked his number. Marcus, however, also contacted me. Our conversation, spanning a week, revealed a deeper tragedy. Leo and Marcus have been in an on-again, off-again relationship for 15 years. Marcus described Leo as deeply self-centered and manipulative, prone to breaking up briefly to indulge his desires, then returning, claiming fidelity. Marcus now realizes these breaks often coincided with Leo's surrogate arrangements. He's finally had enough and is moving back to Santa Barbara, leaving Leo and the cold Midwest behind for good. As for Helen and me, we had the longest, most exhausting conversation of all. I laid out my terms. No arguments, no interruptions, just her truth, then mine. She apologized, she justified, she expressed hurt over my public outburst, yet acknowledged Leo's culpability. When she finished, I told her our entire relationship was built on false pretenses. I understood the logic of her friend's choices, but fundamentally, it was a betrayal. The knowledge that she was intimate with someone else, and that it continued for so long, fundamentally altered my memories of our early life together. I reminded her of a specific day, for months into our relationship, when she stopped our intimacy, claiming she wasn't ready. I can only guess you left my place and went to Leo's, I stated, watching tears stream down her face as she nodded. I poured my energy into you, and you chose to give that intimacy to someone else. I confessed the most painful truth. Learning she was more adventurous and uninhibited with him felt like a knife to the heart, making me feel like a second-best option, a retirement plan. She interjected, claiming he was just sex, not real, that it's easier to be wild when it doesn't matter. I let her finish, then calmly reiterated my perspective. As her partner, I felt it my duty to give her the best of my emotional, physical, and sensual energy. I believed I had done so for 8 years, but I now knew I hadn't received her best in return, especially sensually. To know that I wasn't worthy of all your sensual energy, that you didn't trust me with that, it's the deciding factor, I concluded. I do not think I can come back from this, and I intend to file for divorce. The scene dissolved into tears and desperate pleas from her, but my resolve was firm. She asked for 3 weeks to let emotions settle. I agreed. For weeks later, my feelings remain unchanged. We met with a mutual divorce lawyer. No children are involved, and we both want to sell the house, making the initial meeting smooth. She is deeply depressed, and so am I, but this is for the best. Sometimes, things just don't work out. If this story resonated with you, if it made you feel, think, or question, then please show your support. Give this video a like to help us reach more people. Share your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. We want to hear what you think. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next gripping narrative. Your engagement is what allows us to keep bringing these powerful stories to life. Thank you for watching until the very end.